you ready to heal your mind, body, and soul from the inside out? Welcome to the Real Healing Institute show with Michelle Sinclair, divine healer and spiritual teacher, where spiritual transformation meets practical guidance to break free from limiting beliefs, subconscious pain, and energetic blocks. This is a powerful space for those seeking true healing and enlightenment. Michelle's teachings are rooted in her deep study of the Christ letters and the spiritual awakening that came from her unwavering dedication to divine truth. She helps individuals navigate their inner healing journey through subconscious soul healing techniques and spiritual teachings by uplifting the vibrational resonance of our thoughts, words, and actions that shape the very fabric of our lives. It is time to learn the profound understandings of universal love. The Real Healing Institute show starts now. Hello and welcome in, everyone. Thank you guys so much for being here today. I'm so excited to have my guest here, Claudio, with us today. Claudio, thank you so much for being here. He is a Christ consciousness brother, and I'm so excited to have you here on this Christ Consciousness Christmas episode. So excited about this. Thank you for being here, Claudio.
Thank you very much for having me, and I'm welcome I'm glad to interact with your audience. Thank you.
Excellent. So glad you're here. Would you like to just tell us before we begin a little bit about yourself and the way that you practice before we get into this here?
Yes, of course. So I am an author. I'm a podcaster. I have my own media platform as well. I started on the spiritual path with Yogananda's teachings, Kriya Yoga. He talks a lot about Christ consciousness, and he also wrote The Second Coming of Christ, which is not about Jesus or Yeshua coming again among us, but the Christ consciousness feeling, the way of being on a daily basis. So that was my starting point, and from there I evolved. I look at other teachings. I went through other types of experiences, even sacred plant medicine, sweat lodges, cacao ceremonies. And I think these are not for everyone, but I was curious to see how my body reacts, how my consciousness expands, and what I'm getting out of this type of experiences. And that curiosity grew because I interviewed about 240 experts in their own field. Either they are doctors, nutritionists, shamans, empaths, channelers. So I learned a little bit from each one of them, and I was able to enrich myself and move forward in this direction.
I love this, and I love how diverse it all is. And I have to say too that I agree, not everything is for everyone, but we do gain these little bits and these little pieces from all of from spreading ourselves out and not being afraid to expand our consciousness in these ways. So, kind of keeping on the Christmas consciousness, Christ consciousness theme here today, what would it mean for you to give the gift of Christ consciousness to others this Christmas? What would that mean to you?
Will be the explanation, the description of what Christ consciousness is, in fact, as a concept. And some of them, some experts and people on the spiritual path call it Christed consciousness. Because if you go to any church, and again, this is my own experience, others' experience might be different, and you ask them why Jesus, why Yeshua was named Jesus Christ, they won't know what to tell you. They will say, Jesus, his first name. Okay, what about Christ, the second part? Because it's not his last name, was not his last name. They don't know, they don't have an explanation because the church, the priests don't go into that type of detail. It's kind of a taboo concept. You cannot go beyond a certain veil. So to me personally is a state of being that involves gratitude, love, unity among all of us. And again, I'm going back to Yogananda. He explained it so well in his book. Also, Shunyamurti, who lives in Costa Rica, also explains this concept. And it's all about knowing yourself, remembering who you are, and raising that energy in you that will make you better and in alignment with what Yeshua preached in his lifetime. Because he said many, many times, um, you can do more than I can do.
Mhm.
The light is within you. So these
Mhm.
are concepts that very few gurus and uh, people on the spiritual path were able to explain it properly. But again, if we look back in history, we have these examples. All we have to do is to let ourselves expand, open up our hearts, and let that love conquer us and live through the heart, not through the mind. Because I have examples in my own life with friends, which I'm trying to expose them to what energy healing means, and they don't believe it. And in the end, even if I offer them as a gift an energy healing session, it might not work on them just because they don't believe it.
That's
They
right.
live too much from the head and they want everything to be logical, to make sense from a three-dimensional perspective. But we
Mhm.
have to go beyond that threshold of understanding and let surrender ourselves to the energy.
That's so true. A lot of people who would doubt that or something still believe in Wi-Fi, and these are the invisible things that are traveling through the air that do make us feel a certain way. I myself have attended a group that you have done, and this was just a transmission of energy, and dang, it is potent, it is powerful. And I think you had 10 people on the group, and there was, maybe only one person that was like, I don't know, and everybody else is like, whew, I gotta take a break. I gotta go take a shower. It was intense, but in the most wonderful way. I meditate so often, and so that's what I did when you were doing this, was kind of put myself into state, but I found it was so much deeper and it was different information than what I would typically get. So if anyone ever has a chance to attend one of your energy healing sessions, I would highly recommend them to do it, and then they can test for themselves whether they think it's real or not. Um, so totally agree with the Christ consciousness. I believe that, Jesus and Muhammad, all of these spiritual masters, what it was that they were just emitting life-giving frequencies to every person that they came into contact with. And they understood that everything is actually just love. And everything that we see that appears that's not that way is really just the mind that's interfering. And we need to look through it and look deeper. Christ wasn't out there judging people or being, however, he was just loving everyone. So I think that this is Christ consciousness to me is, like you've said, it's literally the frequency of love. So if we could give that, consciousness state at Christmas rather than consumerism, how would that shift things? Like, what could Christmas potentially look like if we really focused on the whole reason why we're celebrating in the first place, right? Not a birth, but the message that was brought, the awareness that was brought. How would that shift? What would Christmas look like if we did it right?
I think what you said has so many nuances because Christmas these days has become very commercialized and is not about being in a state of gratitude and love. Is about how many gifts physical gifts I'm going to receive from my parents, from my siblings, from my grandparents, and that is what will make us happy for these 2 3 days during Christmas time. Others will appreciate the time with the family, the big gatherings, but not everyone has the same understanding and feeling about Christmas. I mean, staying by yourself in prayer and meditation is a wonderful way to celebrate this day. Even if we don't know for sure that this is the day when Yeshua was born, doesn't matter. If we
Mhm.
understand the concept and if we apply it on every single day, then we have Christmas every single day. We have to
Mhm.
live in that state of beatitude, of again, and gratitude. Doesn't matter if we are going to a job. If we do that job properly, or if we do that job to the best of our capabilities, and then coming home and do more to better ourselves, to continue to stay in that Christed consciousness state of being and influence those around us to see the transformation we are going through, then we are achieving and giving gifts every single day to everyone around us, even at work, in the office where we are. And I'm trying to do that again on a daily basis, living by example, and it's a beautiful way of being.
It truly is. And, part of Christ consciousness, or at least part of his teachings, are that we reap as we sow. And so, what we put out, we get back. And so, even like you said, let's say that you're just going to your job, when you're truly putting your heart into it. And if you were working as if, okay, you're the owner of the business, how can you really truly work for the person that you're working for? And when you do that in such a good, loving, kind-hearted way, not only have you infused your energy into the work that you're doing, but everything that you have put out is also going to come back to you. Some people I know, they get really disgruntled and they think, I do this and all I get is this paycheck. And it's like, well, your attitude is bringing you everything that you currently have. And if you would do your work happily and truly with joy, then you would have, happy, truly joyful things that come in. So what kind of practices help you to stay connected to that Christ consciousness frequency?
I meditate and I do breath work every single day. Sometimes I'm advised to take a break, to integrate whatever downloads have been put into this body. But there are very few instances where I had a break for more than 4 or 5 days. So again, breath work, 2 or 3 different types of breath work. Meditation could be guided meditation or just me staying in silence. And this happens both in the morning and at night time. During the day, sometimes I attach myself to, or participate into guided meditations with various communities. I'm part of 3 or 4 communities, and they organize guided meditations during the day. So when I'm able to participate, that's a wonderful experience, because you have about 200-300 people doing that. Also, something which is not related from a religious or belief point of view to Christianity is the shamanic journeying. And I had this type of experience, and I'm still connected to a group, and we do journey once every 2 weeks, and again with 60-70 people. It's a very uplifting experience. And again, all these small components contribute to one's spiritual growth. You don't have to be afraid of trying something else. I recently sent an email to someone I know in my community, and I said, I'm organizing this free energy session. If you are interested to participate, it's a healing session. I will send you the link. And her reply was, I am Christian. I don't do this type of things. So I said, oh, I understand. Thank you very much. So is this discrepancy in mindset and the way of thinking, that you really have to follow what the priest is telling you at the church, and just stay there on that particular path. Don't move left, don't move right, don't step out, don't learn anything new. But again, from my own experience, when you go to the church, and I'm not trying to bash anyone, this is a fact. You have to know the customs, when you stand up, when to kneel down, when to listen, when to move to the left, to the right. So you don't have time to really be with yourself, or with focus on God, on Christ consciousness state of being. You are pretty much in a continuous movement, and you have to be aware what the priest is doing next. So you have to be in sync with the customs of that particular faith. And then when you go out and go home, you get back into the flow of life, and you don't follow anything else. You are just caught on that wheel, and you just wait for the next Sunday to go to the church and follow the same process. But overall you think you are a good Christian, and because you didn't hurt anyone, you you are in sync with everything. And again, this is my
Mhm.
own opinion, because again, I see it on those close to me, friends, not necessarily family. And this is a custom that perpetuates from generation to generation and doesn't bring us closer to this Christed consciousness state of
Mhm.
being.
That's right. There can be lots of things that actually have no spiritual life within them. They're just words that are being said, or they're just traditions or things that we continue to follow. And why? I remember I had a friend who's Hindu, and asked her kind of about some of the little traditions. I'm always so curious about these things. And she actually didn't have a why behind any of them. She didn't even know why she was doing some of the certain things. And she was like, I'm actually really thankful that you asked me that, because I thought that is weird. I'm spending so much of my time doing this and doing that, and I actually didn't know why. And so then looked into it and figured out the why behind it. That's so true for me. Before I kind of, left that part of my life behind, like over 10 years ago, I just wasn't questioning things because I didn't know I needed to. And I was actually told when I was little that it was evil to question what you were believing. Oh, don't do that. That's evil. And I remember thinking, like, man, that can't be right. I don't know. And I would hear things and I would see things that other people didn't hear, didn't see. I was, very in tune spiritually, but this was made out to be some horrible thing. But it's like, this is the most wonderful gift in the whole world. If only we all had these gifts and weren't living in fear, because that's what it is. We have the choice to live in love, to live in Christ's consciousness. Fear, right? Love, when he was up there and making his loaves and fishes multiply, he wasn't living in fear of like, okay, I hope you're hearing me today. I hope this is going to work. I hope it's going to. No, he knew how everything worked. He knew that every need is met when you truly understand how things work. And he was not living in fear at all. But I would say most of his followers are, not because of their own fault, but because they are guided by people who don't truly understand what Christ actually was teaching. He didn't say worship me. He didn't say do this. He didn't say any of these things that most people do. He just said have faith. He said, believe, like you're seeing these things. I need you to have faith, but it wasn't in him. It was in what he was talking about. It was in the world, generally. Okay, so if you felt that Christ consciousness right now had a message for the world, what do you think, in particular at this time of where we're at here on the planet, what do you think the message would be?
Stop judging yourself, stop judging others, start loving yourself and love others, and allow yourself that the energy of God, Creator, Source, immerse into you. Because if
Mhm.
that happens, then the wars will disappear, famine will disappear, life on earth will be much, much better, will be like paradise, the one
Mhm.
we keep talking about but never happens, never comes to fruition. And this is not utopia, this is reality. If we eliminate again judgment and allow love to come forward, a lot of things will happen positively in our life.
Mhm.
And kind of fun fact, in along to what you said previously about those leading the churchgoers, my dream is to be able to go in front of young priests in school when they are being formed to become full priests and have a very open discussion with them. I have a long list of questions I will want to ask them and see how will they reply. And
Mhm.
one of the questions will be, why did you decide to take this path? And some of them look at this like priesthood as a job, not a, a purpose in life. And from there, the discussion, I think, will evolve in a very interesting way. But I want once in this lifetime to given the opportunity to talk to talk to these future priests and open up their minds to more than what's there for them right now.
That sounds amazing. That truly would be wonderful. I know from my experiences, several years ago when this profound enlightenment came through and, I'm in the love and I'm only in the love. It's almost like, the movie Avatar, how everything's connected. I was plugged into all of it. And so, of course, from that state, you understand everything. You're living in the love. And what I realized was I didn't need anything else, that there was absolutely nothing in this entire world that could bring me any kind of fulfillment. You can't pay for that. You can't be like, oh, here, I have $30 million here. Can I have that? No, you can't. It's something that has to come to you. And it comes through seeking. But like you said, I believe as well, it comes from letting go. It's about letting go, right? When we have criticisms or judgments, as soon as we judge something, as soon as we criticize it, we tense up, we tighten up. And so we're pushing away all the wonderful love that is supposed to flow into us. And because we're living from our own perspective, 100% of the time, there's never anything to judge anyway. But we're judging something internally about ourselves and we're projecting it out on this person, situation, someone, whatever it is. And we think it's about them when it's totally about us. So I have, been working for years and I had one issue that I would say with a family member that I was kind of judging them because I felt like they hadn't really stepped into their gifts and weren't using them fully. And I'm like, why? Like, why would they're so talented, they have this, why wouldn't they do that? And so it was kind of this little thing I had in my mind. Now, about a week ago, I went with this family member and we went and had a reading done and had all this stuff done where it came out that that person that I believed had all these gifts had kind of turned them off and they didn't really possess them anymore. And so I realized in that moment, I was like, I was judging this, never told the person this, but I was internally in my mind judging this when it was never about them in the first place. It obviously had something to do with me. Um, but most people don't want to look at themselves either. They know that once they do that, it's a deep road and it's just going to keep going deeper and deeper. But I have to say, it can be quite uncomfortable when you first start doing the work. Very uncomfortable because you've got to heal so many things that you didn't even know. But at some point, it gets to the point where you're like, okay, I'm really glad. I'm really glad that I did this. So, what would you say got you kind of on your path? What got you on this Christ consciousness path?
Like many of us, I've been, chasing money, a better job, and I realized at one point that that's useless, and there is more to life than just money. So I kind of scaled back on what I was doing. I started to go back into writing. I published my first book, the second, the third. Then I started the podcast that evolved into meeting, as I mentioned at the beginning, so many wonderful people. I changed myself. I was exposed to various practices and ceremonies like sacred plant medicine, cacao, sweat lodge. And those interactions shed a lot of layers from my own beliefs and energetic layers as well. So in the end, it made me lighter. It opened me up to all these concepts. And I understand that what I was practicing maybe 5 years ago doesn't apply to me anymore. I evolved and I have to look at something else. So that's why certain individuals, that again, this is just a statement, not a judgment, they keep staying with the same practice. And some of them might not advance, might not feel any development. But
Mhm,
because they are told that this is the practice they should go with, they will keep doing it.
mhm,
But again, in my opinion, I'm very curious and I want to experiment with certain things to see what is the next level. And at one point, I will say that's enough for me. Doesn't make sense anymore to go back to what I was doing. I'm going to stick to what I do now because that brings me the most um, feeling of fulfillment.
mhm. Yeah, I would say that's something to, really keep seeking and you will find. And I mean, it says that everywhere, right? Seeking you will find. And it's only when we stop seeking because we're like, yeah, we know it all. we never do. And even you and me and all the people who just continue along this path, we never know it all. There is always more new information that comes in. And that's how it works. It's evolution. So even if today we know everything that there is to know, tomorrow we won't, because we've evolved from there. And I agree here that, people can get stuck in something, and typically it is out of fear, that they get stuck in these places. I know I was there for a long time. I actually had to have a subconscious session, healing session over getting rid of religious fear, because I knew things, when I'm seeing things, I'm seeing stuff with my clients, I'm getting all these downloads, and yet still in the back of my mind is this, oh, but what if you're wrong? And what if you go to hell? And it was like, okay, I know that's not real. So, so I had to really go in and do subconscious healing around this so that I could let go of that fear, because I knew it wasn't real. Um, so what would you say about this? I think most of what we do when we come here, we're just remembering. We say we get new information, but it's not, it's so familiar, and it's like, oh, right. Oh, I forgot that too. Would you say that that has been kind of the process for you, and particularly maybe with plant medicines?
Yes, I agree. And in fact, I had an interview with one of my guests earlier today, and he corrected me when I said awakening. And he just waved the finger at me and he said, "No, I have to correct you. This is remembering." And I said, "Okay, I have to be very careful with my words and the nuances I use." And yes, is
Mhm.
remembering of who we really are, what the purpose of the soul is, why we came here. And some of us might never be able to explore that facets of ourselves in this lifetime, because again, there is no interest, there is no desire to put an effort towards that, in that direction. And again, I give this example when I had interviews with other with my guests, that if on a Saturday night you decide to meditate instead of going and watch a movie, that tells a lot about your determination to self-realization. I
Mhm.
think that's a very telling example.
Yeah, that is very true. These little choices, the things we don't realize have such a big effect. So we're almost out of time here, but I also did want to mention, just because you threw this out here, I know when I will go on these spiritual journeys, and I'll go and then I'll come back. Maybe you do the same, but you come back and, oh man, you're just made of pure light. But it's so easy to fall back into the old way and to like start watching Netflix or this or that, which I have ixnayed myself from, because I realized that was my downfall in the past. So I have a question. So this can be for everyone, but I'll ask it to you too. So what are you personally releasing this Christmas season to create space for more divine love?
It's a question that, I didn't think about yet, but if you put me on the spot, I think I will have to um, release more of the friction I have inside to allow more self-love to come through, and also to pay attention to those that are throwing small nuggets of knowledge towards me and listen to them. Because recently a friend of mine asked me how I'm doing, about my meditation and the way my body moves, and she said, "Be cautious here and there, because I think this might not be what you think it is." And I didn't disregard it completely, but I wasn't totally accepting that information. And 2 days later, I had a session with someone else I respect, and she looked at my energy field and she kind of confirmed, without me telling her anything, she confirmed what the other friends said. So we really have to assess ourselves from time to time and listen to those who really want us to be better. And again, as you said, not knowing or knowing it all is not the way to do it on this path. You have to be open to not criticism, but to suggestion that you might have to take a different path, or look at the path you are on right now and see how you can improve yourself.
Mhm. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here today. This was so great, so wonderful to talk to you. All of your information, if anyone wants to get a hold of Claudio here, it will be listed down in the description below. I just want to mention here that I have that mental cleanse series on YouTube under my page, The Real Healing Institute. This is a free subconscious healing series that will always be free for everyone, for always. So thank you so much for being here today. And I look forward to talking with you again, and we will see you guys in the next one. Thanks so much.
Thank you for joining the Real Healing Institute show with me, Michelle Sinclair. Tune in every second and fourth Wednesday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com for more empowering ways to spread love and set yourself free. Together, we'll elevate the consciousness of the planet. Stay connected. Follow me on social media, subscribe to the podcast, and explore the Mental Cleanse series on YouTube. Ready to go deeper? Book a session with Michelle at therealhealinginstitute.com. Until next time, keep healing, keep growing, and remember, love is the only way.